Want to be very clear and very fair here. This is progress, and I am very grateful that the director and the post team took my evidence and the rest of the evidence that they gathered seriously enough to move it forward with an out of the county investigator. His team and him looked into this case for several months. He later told me that there was enough evidence for him to open a formal investigation, that he and the deputy director had a list of some things that were concerning. Importantly, they assigned it to an investigator in Cobb County instead of Cherokee County to help avoid any local bias that might go on. And that was a big step. I felt like they were taking it serious. Let me explain quickly what this process actually means, because I know it can sound confusing and it even sounds like kind of cut and dry, but it's really not. I had to actually email the director to find out how does this whole thing work. So Georgia Post is the state agency that certifies and oversees all peace officers in Georgia. When there's a serious complaint about an officer's conduct, they can investigate and recommend sanctions. So while they might tell you that it's not normal for them to take civilian complaints, they can. And they can initiate their own investigations. They don't have to wait for leadership. Here's a little bit of the email that was sent back to me in late January when I followed up about the different timelines, and I'll read the key parts to you so that you can hear it directly. Good morning, Ms. Lopez. Thank you for your follow-up inquiry. To address your question, the dates for the next probable cause committee meeting have not been finalized, though it is currently set to take place in April. Please be advised that the process does not conclude immediately following that meeting. The PCC submits only a recommendation to the full council, which is scheduled to meet in June. Once a recommendation is issued, the officer is notified and maintains the right to request a hearing. If a hearing is requested, it will delay the final outcome. While this may not occur in the specific case, I wanted to ensure you were aware of the procedural possibilities. Best regards, Director of Investigations. That's the reality of these processes. Now, this is separate from any criminal charges or civil lawsuit. Matter of fact, when he had contacted me, he told me he would look into it and he was going to investigate. But if they decided to take it before the council or anything, that all of that would wait until after adjudication, because they don't like to get intertwined, which I can appreciate, I guess, that that's their policy. But for me, it's like, why would anybody allow somebody to go down the prosecution route and risk having those people prosecuted if you did an investigation and found that that officer was guilty of misconduct? It just seems a little to me. But anyway, it seems to all be about whether the officer should continue to hold the power and trust that comes with being a certified law enforcement, or if he should have it taken away. Tomorrow's meeting is closed to the public in terms of voting, but the process is on public record, and it is a public meeting. So I'll keep you updated. I will be watching it, and as soon as I have more information about the probable cause committee reviews in this case, I will do an update and I'll let you know. Most importantly, I want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you, big or small, that has stood with me and is standing with me, and for caring about transparency, caring about my family. Knowledge really is power, and staying informed is one of the strongest things that we can do. It has been almost 8 months since my arrest. My obstruction charge is still sitting in the Cherokee County Court docket. You can actually look it up online. It's still there, case number and all. Still out on bond. Back in August 2025, a Cherokee County Sheriff's Corporal, Aaron Mills, entered my home without a warrant while my children were present. I was arrested for obstruction after I repeatedly asked to see a warrant that did not exist. I called 911 for help. He ended my call, put me in handcuffs, and took me to jail. The sheriff's office stood by the deputy and even put out a statement that many legal experts called very misleading. I shared my security camera footage. I filed complaints, and honestly, I just refused to stay silent. Because of that, this case has now moved far beyond a local level. It has very thankfully been picked up by many major civil rights advocates and attorneys on YouTube, many attorneys locally, nationally. And here's what's happened so far and where we stand today in April 2026. It has been almost 8 months since my arrest. My obstruction charge is still sitting in the Cherokee County Court docket. You can actually look it up online. It's still there, case number and all. Still out on bond. There has not been a formal accusation filed by the solicitor's office. In Georgia, we have solicitors who, handle misdemeanor cases, DA for felony. They have not formally accused me. However, the district attorney has already obtained and given all of the discovery in my son's case. They've tried for jury trial calendar many times. However, it has been continued. My son's girlfriend, who was also arrested for obstruction that night but never taken to jail, her charge has already been dismissed. The solicitor has told numerous people that I'm a defendant, has referred to me as a defendant, and has stated that she's going to prosecute me, but for whatever reason has continued to ride out this charge. There is a statute of limitations in Georgia that is 2 years on misdemeanors. So legally, I suppose she has 2 years to file a formal accusation, but at this point, it looks like some sort of, prosecution delay. So anyway, that's where we stand with my charges. I would assume that will change soon, but who knows, right? Shortly after the incident, the director of investigations at the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, which is POST, he personally reached out to me and wanted to review more of my footage. He also requested the body camera footage from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. Mind you, when I was arrested and got out, I immediately emailed the sheriff and the DA and told them, what happened and how violated I felt and traumatized and my children, and demanded criminal charges against this officer. They didn't never respond. Why am I sharing all of this so openly? Because this isn't just about my family anymore. It's about whether warrantless entries into homes, especially in front of young children, are taken seriously. It's about whether self-investigations by agencies are enough, or whether we need stronger independent oversight, and we need stronger independent oversight. If leadership is not capable of standing up and taking accountability for the officers that they hire, we need independent oversight to say this was wrong. Because how many other people is this happening to? It's about every Georgia resident and every Cherokee County resident knowing that their constitutional rights, particularly the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, if you're watching this and you've ever felt powerless when you're dealing with law enforcement, just know, if you've ever seen similar issues in your own county, I want you to know that you are not alone. Sharing these stories, following the official processes is how change starts. Some of you might ask, well, what can I do right now? Well, for starters, you can sign and share the petition for an independent investigation into Cherokee County Sheriff's Office misconduct. I'll link it in the description. I don't really know if it'll do anything. Seems to me that anybody that can do anything, they're all friends and it's just whatever. So we can try though. We can never stop fighting. Eventually somebody somewhere will stand up and do the right thing. So I hope. Educate yourself, your family on your rights during police encounters, and support calls for stronger body camera transparency and that independent oversight across Georgia, everywhere. The sheriff's office stood by the deputy and even put out a statement that many legal experts called very misleading. I shared my security camera footage, I filed complaints, and honestly, I just refused to stay silent. Because of that, this case has now moved far beyond a local level. It has very thankfully been picked up by many major civil rights advocates and attorneys on YouTube, many attorneys locally and nationally. And here's what's happened so far and where we stand today in April 2026. I did file an internal affairs investigation, and obviously you guys have seen on different channels that investigation was absolute joke. It was a pure joke. So I did try to go through like the proper channels, and I'm very thankful that the Post reached out to me, because here in Georgia, they do not take citizens' complaints. I had originally reached out to the Post department in our county, in Cherokee County, and she called me back and told me they don't take citizens' complaints, that if the sheriff or whoever found that an officer was guilty of some sort of misconduct, that they refer officers to them and then they would do their own investigation. So, because the sheriff was backing his officers, there was no referral to Georgia Post. So, I am very thankful that the director had the director of investigations reach out to me, right? Matter of fact, I remember when I was talking with the director, he told me that my case was super rare. I was in probably the bottom 1% of things that ever happened. They told me they were never, the primary investigators to anything. It really is. And I'm very thankful that they at least had enough integrity to come forward as an entity and just do something, because I felt like nobody in any government authority position was doing anything. They move so carefully and give everyone due process, which is super important. That is the law of the land, and everybody should have it. It also means families like mine sometimes wait a very, very long time for answers. It has been 8 months. And there's a very real possibility that they will substantiate this misconduct. And just knowing that this officer has been on traffic duty in my county working for the last 8 months, arresting God knows who for God knows what, after we've already seen other footage come out of him unlawfully arresting people for bogus charges that didn't exist. It's scary to me. So why am I sharing all of this so openly? Because this isn't just about my family anymore. It's about whether warrantless entries into homes, especially in front of young children, are taken seriously. Shortly after the incident, the director of investigations at the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, which is POST, he personally reached out to me and wanted to review more of my footage. He had saw my story on the news, but it's hard to gather everything that happened in a 2-minute news segment, right? I guess the director of Georgia Post had asked him to reach out to me. So I sent it over. If this video helped you understand how accountability works in Georgia and where it still falls short, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe for more mixes of practical social media growth tips and real talk on civil rights and justice.